just really stay focused on that message that we have for our ideal client, of that story that we can tell, of how we can take them, which I think is such an empowering story, even though, it starts from a fairly negative beginning in a way because they're experiencing a problem. But the story is a story of hope, is the story of like, this can be done in a different way that works better for you, that's going to bring you better results. And whenever you're ready, I'm here. When you look at your marketing from that perspective, it becomes, more empowering and exciting to do.
Hello, and welcome to Storytelling for Business, the podcast that helps you build better business relationships by telling stories your clients and customers want to hear. And I'm your host, Katie Flammen. After a decade reporting stories as a broadcast journalist, I turned the microphone on myself and became a voice actor, helping businesses tell their stories. But what is business storytelling anyway? Why is it so powerful? And how can you do more of it? I'm exploring those questions and loads more in this podcast. I talk to experts who share tools and strategies to get you storytelling like a pro, and to regular business owners too, who are doing all the things, and they're going to inspire you to do the same. And today, I've got a proper treat for you. So let's meet our guest. Giada Nizzoli from craftycopy.co.uk is a marketing message mentor and strategist. That means she helps business owners like you to connect with your ideal clients by telling those clients' stories. Clever stuff, eh? So let's jump in. Giada, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
It's really good that you're here. I'm very excited. But before we jump into it, did I actually describe your job correctly?
Well, storytelling is definitely a big part of what I do. So I love your definition. And the only thing I would add is that I also help with people's positioning and giving them clarity on what to focus on with the marketing and how to say it. So in a nutshell, like how I usually describe it is that I give my clients kind of like complete clarity, a strategy, and a repeatable process to consistently market the services as the only logical choice.
Okay. So that is a lot. It's quite unusual. It's combining quite a few things. There's a sprinkle of marketing in there. I know your background is copywriting, but you're also kind of helping people figure out their brand positioning, and you're cheerleading them along the way as well. So how did you get to this blend of kind of figuring out this is exactly the thing that I need to be doing?
Oh, well, it took a while. Like my business evolved a lot throughout the years. And it was always about, well, at first, to be completely honest, I started out because, as you said, like my background is as a copywriter because I love writing, I love words and so on. And so I started out like that. But I started out as a very generic copywriter because, to be honest, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was like, yeah, I want to do this, but there's all these options. I didn't know who I wanted to work with, what type of copy I wanted to write. And I think sometimes you kind of do need to try different things to find what you really enjoy, but also what brings the best results to your clients. So I started out as a very generic copywriter, and then I started like niching down and realizing actually I like working with women. Actually, I like working with women who run a service-based business. Actually, I like writing their website copy and so on. But then it was also about realizing that sometimes what I was doing for my clients, I was giving them the best copy I could give them. But then I was realizing it wasn't enough for them to really get the most out of it with the rest of the marketing. So, for example, I realized, sure, like they have the website copy, but now the rest of the marketing is focusing on completely different things and their messaging is all over the place. So how I changed my business was by realizing what more can I do for my clients while still staying true to what I actually enjoy doing, like that sweet spot. And so that's when I realized that, okay, I need to give them some more help with the brand messaging. And then I actually need to help them get confident with getting the message out there consistently. And I actually love what you said about being a cheerleader, because I never thought of it in that specific way. But in a way, it kind of is like that, because as I said, now I mostly work with women, and something that a lot of them struggle with is actually promoting their services confidently without feeling icky, without feeling like they're doing something bad. And so that's how I got to this blend where like I give them clarity on their messaging, but also helping them feel like the one for their ideal clients, like helping them do this consistently until it becomes a habit and until it becomes normal, and then they don't need me anymore, and they can keep doing that with the same motivation, with the same confidence and strategy for years to come, basically.
It's those are the two things, aren't they? The confidence, to have that self-confidence to say, actually, I'm not bothering you. I'm going to help you out here. I'm going to solve whatever, that thing, I can sort that out for you. And then, and coming at it from a position of, rather than being kind of apologetic, and I'm so sorry to bother you, I mean, you're not British, but but that's such a British position.
Yep.
Like, oh, I'm so terribly sorry. I'm sure you're really busy, and thanks so much for even deigning to open this email. But whatever it is, or to look at my website. But yeah, there's the confidence, but there's also the strategy of, well, how on earth do I do that? How do I make my website and my social media and my whatever podcast appearances and all be consistent and all be super clear? This is who I am. This is what you're going to get. Because you're right. It's no good if they read your website and it's saying one thing, but they read a social media post and they're kind of, oh, hang on, I thought that they were coming from there. So
exactly.
What do people have kind of specific or are there regular issues that people have when they first start working with you? Are you yeah, I've seen this before?
Yeah, well, it's really like that lack of clarity, because I think some business owners are aware that they think, actually, I know them, I offer like such good services, and I can tell that I'm not conveying it in a way that does them justice. Whereas some others are not aware of that, and they think, why are people not getting it? It should be clear that what I'm doing is so beneficial. So it's either like one of these two, but the core problem is the same. If they're not clear on it, their clients are not going to be clear on it. And so, yeah, they have the best services, but they're going to continue to be the best kept secret in their industry. And we don't want that. I want business owners with good services to reach the kind of people who would genuinely benefit from those services. So that has to be like a common challenge, like conveying the value of what they do in a way that really connects with their real clients. And as we just said as well, like the fact is like the importance of doing it consistently, because I think consistency is talked about a lot in marketing, but people misunderstand it as a you just have to show up every day and that's all that matters. But really, like, having a consistent message is just as important, because if someone sees your face every day, but you're always talking about different things, you're always describing your services in different ways, sure, people will remember your face, but they won't feel compelled to invest in your services. And so that's like the kind of like the key challenges that I solve, like with my clients. What we work on is making sure that they're crystal clear on what to say, how to say it, and that they can actually find a way of doing that consistently that actually works for them, and they can commit to that without trying to do everything everywhere or being on every single platform, but something that they can commit to consistently, regularly, and where their ideal clients are also like engaging and so on, so that they can get into this habit until, as I said, until it becomes second nature and they can commit to it strategically on their own.
So you've got to be consistent with the messaging, but you can't be saying the same thing over and over again. Otherwise it's boring. So is this where storytelling comes in?
Storytelling definitely helps a lot with that. There's one thing I will say though, like I think people are really scared about being a broken record with the marketing, but I think you should be a bit of a broken record, because we are the only person who sees everything that we put out. Like people only see, most people only see a few bits and bobs. And if we're not repeating ourselves, they're not going to get our message. They're not going to see it, enough times. But what you were saying about storytelling, that is definitely so important, because it's not about saying the exact same thing every single day. It's about repeating the same message, but you can repeat the same message in lots of different ways. You can package it, you can attach stories to it. And that's why, with stories as well, it becomes more varied, because you're not just stating facts, you are sharing the same message as part of different stories. And what I tend to do a bit differently from traditional storytelling, because I think a lot of people think of storytelling as in just telling their own story. I like to tell my client's story as if it's already happening, as if I'm telling it to them and helping them see it. And then showing them basically how they can go from their current problem to their ideal outcome through my help. And I'm telling this story consistently so that the message is consistent, but the content changes, and I do repeat myself sometimes, because as I said, you kind of do need to be a bit of a broken record. Otherwise, people are not going to remember you. But you can do it in so many ways, and there's so many different pieces of that story that you can tell.
So can you give us an example of maybe one of your clients, if it's not breaking confidentiality and stuff, to actually sort of explain, well, this is a particular message that they wanted to get across, and these are a few different ways that we did it?
Yes, of course. So, for example, as a client I work with, that she is a social media manager, and she's brilliant at what she does. And she specifically works with businesses in the baby and parenting niche. So most of our competitors were just saying that, to them, oh, you just need to do these things on socials, or oh, you just need to do that. Here are 5 tips. Whereas we implemented like storytelling and strategic messaging, and now what she's talking about is like literally she's telling the story of these clients who work in the baby and parenting niche, who need to reach basically parents, clients, but as in like, because of what they do, they're really trying to reach parents. So what she talks about is that. So she said, like, you're opening your social media. It's Monday, for example, it's Monday morning. You're opening your Instagram and you're hoping to find some DMs from parents who are excited by your services, but nothing is there. Like your inbox is quieter than a baby who's, or things like that. But then she does it in a way that it inspires like empathy. She shows them that she gets them. She shows them why this is happening, and she tells them what they can do to change that. So, and sometimes she tells the story like, the opposite story. Like, imagine this, it's the end of the week and you don't have to worry about what's happening next week, because, you already have these 3 parents that came in your inbox because they connected with what you were sharing. And, she tells a positive story of what is possible for them. Or, for example, she tells them why what they've been doing so far hasn't been working for them, or why when she worked with a different business in the baby and parenting niche, why what they did differently helped them reach those parents, and so on. So she's not just like sharing those kind of like surface level tips that everyone else is sharing, and that, really people now can just get not only on Google, but even ChatGPT can give you. So, if we're sticking to facts and stats and things like that, we're not going to make that connection with our ideal client. But when we're like wrapping that, with a packaging around the story, whether it's like, especially like their story, or if it's like elements of our own story that can feel relevant to them, or if it's part of the story of clients that we've already worked with that used to be in their same shoes and that actually overcame that problem, and so on, that's going to make it so much easier for our ideal clients to really connect with that, stop their scrolling, and help them absorb our message because it's wrapped around that story, basically.
So the story is kind of like fleshing out those bullet points or those top tips or whatever, but taking them, rather than saying, here's a list of 5 things, you do 5 different stories. And each one is super, super specific, but actually massively relevant to them.
Yeah, because that's the key thing. Like with the storytelling, like I don't like tell stories that are gonna make me go viral or that are gonna be popular with like everyone online. I always tell stories that are relevant for my specific ideal client. So that's like the example I was saying with my client, that she doesn't just talk about using social media in general. She talks about using social media as a baby and parenting business who is trying to reach parents. So that is already not going to be relevant to like probably like 99%, if not more, of the people out there. But for that person, they're going to see themselves in that story because it's so specific. It's like, oh my God, she's talking about me. It's like she's talking to me. She's painting a picture of my day. She's painting a picture of what I want to get, of what I want to achieve in like 2 months from now or whatever. And that's going to make it so much easier for them to really connect with that message, and most importantly, to remember it, so that when that person is ready to take action, they're going to think of, the one who's been like planting and watering that seed with their marketing consistently, rather than the person who was just, sharing generic tips or just saying the same as everyone, or only posting about themselves, and showing up with very generic marketing.
I think that's super interesting what you said about it's not about trying to go viral, because there's a lot of hype about, oh, I've had however many million shares or views or clicks or whatever it is. And actually, you're right. In business, you don't want to appeal to everybody. You want
100%.
to appeal to exactly the people who are going to buy your service. Otherwise, you're just showing off.
Literally. And you know what, like it's a good thing you mentioned that, because I always talk about magnetic messaging, and like a lot of people like talk about being magnetic, but they're always talking about, yeah, you need to be magnetic for your ideal clients, you need to attract your ideal clients. But what they don't tell you is that magnets don't just attract, they repel too. So if you're not doing that with your marketing, if you're not repelling whilst you're also trying to attract, you're not really going to attract anyone, because your messaging is going to be so generic and vanilla that, sure, it's easy to agree with, it's easy to drop a like, it's easy to drop a comment, but those aren't the kind of things that fuel your business. You need clients at the end of the day. So I always say, like, rather than because the other problem is that a lot of people are getting distracted by influencers and big accounts. But those people have a completely different business model. Like, they need the likes, they need the engagement, they need the big following, because that's what their business depends on. But if you are selling services to clients, that's what you need to focus on. So it's much better to really stay on track with your messaging and tell the story of those ideal clients, like talk about what they need to hear from you, even if it doesn't make you very popular online, even if it doesn't go viral, because that is going to make it easier for you to connect with them and for them to think of you when they're ready to actually, invest in the kind of services that you offer, which is literally what our business depends on if we are selling services.
Yes. Yeah. And it's sort of obvious, isn't it? But the internet is like a massive box of chocolates or a brilliant box of biscuits with all the different flavors and colored silver foil and wrapping and stuff. And you jump from one thing to the next. And it's very easy to get distracted and think, oh, they're doing that.
Yes.
I'll do this. Or, oh, they did that. I could try that. And I mean, I think I'm like a lot of business owners, maybe, when it comes to, probably not the ones you work with, when it comes to marketing. And I'm not that consistent, and I don't stick to one strategy, and I do get distracted. I get bored easily, and I get distracted, and then I think, oh, I'll try a bit of that, or I'll try a bit of this, and then I get demoralized when I haven't had that consistency and stuff. So I think maybe this comes back to the whole cheerleader thing. How do you kind of pick up your clients and say, come on, we can do this, never mind?
Well, obviously, it really depends on what each person is struggling with, but something that I can share that hopefully will be helpful to anyone who's listening, because then you can, you get to take this and implement in the way that works for you. I would start by really reconnecting with why you're doing this. Why are you in business? And usually, like, it goes back to two things. And one is like, why you're doing this for yourself. And I don't think anyone should feel selfish about this, because you started your business, I'm sure, like, you started it because, you wanted more freedom, you wanted to do something you enjoy, you wanted to earn more than you earn in the corporate world, whatever it is that motivates you, reconnect with that. And also the other thing is, like, why are you offering these types of services to your clients? What impact does it have for them? Like, why do they need these services? Like, really reconnect with that. And then once you've done that, start looking at your marketing from this different perspective, because when you're reconnected with those two things, your marketing is like the kind of thing that will make it easier to do more of that more easily, easier for you to do more of like what you love about your business, and easier for your clients to discover the kinds of services that can really solve the problem for them, that can make their life easier, that they can improve their business or whatever it is you do. It's something positive. So it's like your marketing is a win-win, because it helps you and it helps them. And the other thing as well is that obviously this is about seeing your marketing from a different perspective, that, it matters and it makes things easier for you, but also the kind of effort in a way. And if anyone is listening to this, and put like inverted commas for effort, because it's like, yeah, it's effort in the sense that you need to do this consistently, but like the effort that you put on a one-to-many basis through your marketing, it means that you're going to have to put a lot less effort on a one-to-one basis whenever you deal with a new inquiry, with a new lead, with a discovery call, with a strategy session, because by the time they
already
come
know
to
the
you,
stuff.
Exactly. They already know the stuff, and you've been planting and watering the seed that you are the one for them. So you're going to attract less of those, as we were saying, repelling and attracting. You're going to start repelling people who are just price shoppers, who are not committed, with the kind of people who tell you, I'll think about it, and then ghost you. Your marketing is going to repel those, and it's going to attract more of those who, by the time they get in touch, they pretty much already decided that they want to work with you. They're not looking for a copywriter, a designer, a business coach. They want to work with you. So something you can do to motivate yourself to do your marketing is remembering like just the impact that it's going to have when it comes to getting more of the right clients and getting rid of time wasters. But at the same time, like something I always tell my clients is, about being very realistic with what you can do. And I always tell them that, like, foundations aside, the best marketing strategy is the one that you are actually going to commit to consistently. So, like if someone
like a
tries
diet.
to, yeah, in a way, it's got to be realistic, because like, if someone comes to me and they tell me like, I absolutely hate videos and I hate TikTok, I'm not going to tell them to be, to go in on TikTok, because it's not going to work. But, it's better to do less, but do it consistently on, say, channels and platforms that you feel a bit more comfortable with, where your clients are hanging out and things like that, and get in the habit of doing that regularly and really giving things time to stick. Because if we start throwing marketing spaghetti at the wall, maybe because I'm Italian, I like that analogy. But if we start doing that, we're not giving things time to stick. And that is exactly when I think you get demoralized, because you think, oh, that's not worked. But yeah, of course it hasn't worked, because maybe we've only been doing that for a few weeks, and then we focused on something else instead, and we kept kind of jumping ships. Whereas, when we just pick fewer things, do it strategically, really focus on what our ideal clients need to hear, without getting distracted by what, that big account is doing, by what the person who went viral is doing, by what their competitors are talking about. Just really stay focused on that message that we have for our ideal clients, of that story that we can tell, of how we can take them, which I think is such an empowering story, even though, it starts from a fairly negative beginning in a way, because they're experiencing a problem. But the story is a story of hope, is the story of like, this can be done in a different way that works better for you, that's going to bring you better results. And whenever you're ready, I'm here. So I think that is like, when you look at your marketing from that perspective, it becomes like, I find it like very, more empowering and exciting to do almost. Of course, there's always going to be aspects of your marketing you might not enjoy particularly, but like the impact that it has, it's so worth it when you think, about especially the opposite, like having to do everything manually and always be the one reaching out to everyone and chasing people who just aren't really committed and ending up on endless calls with, those people who just like not really, don't really see the value in what you do. So I hope that inspires more people to, be consistent with the marketing and looking at it from that perspective of inviting clients into to live that story, to make it happen.
Love it. Love it. Perspective is the word that comes up quite a lot in this podcast for a lot of different reasons. And I really love that. So we ought to address your beautiful accent and the fact that you're not native Brit, you are an Italian. So tell me a bit about your story, Giada. How come you are living in the UK and why did you come?
So I was 19 when I moved to the UK, and for a few years it's been my dream. And I think it started because I'm very passionate about British literature and British music, especially, like a massive fan of the Beatles. So I started watching all the films and the interviews, and I was obviously looking at things in the background as well. I was like, oh, that looks nice over there. And that's how I started out. I just moved here. And to be honest, the
Beatles,
full story.
The Beatles is what, I mean, no offense, but you're a very young woman. How funny that was the driver. I thought you were going to say Oasis or
I do like Oasis as well, but it started out with the Beatles. Yeah.
Okay.
And
did you just travel here independently? Your family didn't come?
No, and I was saying as well, this happy side of things, but also like I did have a bit of a difficult situation at home, and I was kind of looking forward to getting out of that situation. So I was on my own. I started out as an au pair, and I started out waitressing on the side. Then I focused on that, and I had absolutely no clue what I wanted to do with my life. I was like 19, coming from a very small Italian village, and then I found myself in London. So it was like this completely new world. It's like I fell down the rabbit hole, like Alice in Wonderland. But I still didn't really know what I wanted to do. And then it wasn't until I think it was like about a year later that I caught chickenpox in my early 20s.
Okay.
And I was forced to basically obviously stay at home. I did a lockdown before it was cool. That was like back in 2014. And, you know, when I couldn't do my very long shifts, because you had to do very intensive shifts as a waitress in London, and I was just at home, and I was like, I started like reading and writing, and that's when I randomly had my epiphany. I was like, I want to do something to do with writing, and then I slowly started like looking into it. I started with like simple courses, and then I went to university in Portsmouth. I did creative and media writing, and then after university, I moved up north with my boyfriend, and I now live in Chester, which is my adoptive hometown, Roman town. So I think it was meant to be, and I absolutely love it here.
Wow. So it was all down to chickenpox.
Yeah, and the Beatles.
I mean, that's and the Beatles. I mean, that's the
so
most
random.
Bizarre origin story ever.
Isn't it? I can't wait for the Netflix adaptation of this.
and you know, we've for people watching and not just listening, you have such a brilliant look as well. I mean, tell us about your 80s passion.
Yeah, it's so weird. Like, I feel like when it comes to style and music, I was born in the wrong decade. But the Beatles is still my favorite band. But then I fell more and more in love with the 80s. Like, my father used to be a DJ in the 80s. So I really grew up with, you know, hearing that music. And then I started to realize that I don't really know how to explain it, but I only feel like my real self when I'm dressed 80s. So if someone, people can't hear me, I have a perm, I've got big loop earrings, I've got a pussy bow blouse, I'm wearing houndstooth pencil skirts, and I have shoulder pads in some of my outfits and so on. I got, you know, full on 80s makeup and everything. And it just makes me feel like I'm expressing myself. And it took me a while, to be honest. Like, I think people who already know me and have been following me on LinkedIn might be surprised, because I'm usually quite, you know, I show up in videos and photos and everything. But it took me a while to feel comfortable with really bringing that, incorporating that into my business brand. I used to show up with more, you know, I used to tone it down because I thought, you know, people are not going to think I'm professional. People are going to think my strategies are outdated because I look like I'm from the 80s. I was like, you know what? I feel like myself when I'm, and I think it shows more because I feel confident. I feel happier. And a lot of people, when I show up on video calls, they tell me like, oh my God, you're glowing today. And I think that only happens when I'm dressed 80s. So I'm not gonna tone that down anymore.
And that's, I mean, that is so important for everybody. Whatever you're doing, you have to feel like you are being true to yourself, your authentic you. And if, you know, who doesn't want to feel confident and happy and like they're looking amazing and feeling amazing? That's going to make you show up in a real positive way. It's going to make you feel better about yourself, boost your self-confidence, all of that stuff. So I think women in business, again, I mean, it's not just a female thing, but a lot of perhaps just generally people, human beings, feel like they need to fit into a box or particularly, let's say, LinkedIn, they have to show up in a certain way because it is corporate. And I, as a voiceover, I record lots of corporate material, lots of corporate videos and things. And I was working with a lovely client in Germany last week, and they're a big pharmaceutical company. But the films I've made for them, for their internal marketing and external, actually, are so brilliant. They're so different. There's
personality and all that.
Yeah, personality, a bit of oomph. There was analogies about motor racing and all kinds of different things we've done, because they're not stuffy and corporate, and they understand that just because the word business or the word corporate is in there, nobody necessarily is going to connect with that. You have to be yourself. Be be technicolor rather than just black and white, or just the tones that you think are appropriate for that particular platform or that particular client.
Yeah, I love that. And as well, I think, I think it is more common amongst women. I'm hearing so much from my clients, that like instinct to try and blend in and to be like everyone so that people aren't going to judge you. But the thing is, like, if we are trying to be like everyone, we're not going to stand out. And, how can we attract our ideal clients? How can we impact more people if we are trying to sound and look like everyone else?
Everybody else.
So I think, whatever, you need to do to make it easier for yourself to, to show up a bit more confidently, a bit more boldly, and to say what what your ideal clients need to hear from you, and what what gets you onto your soapbox, what you really want to talk about. Whatever helps you, whatever makes it easier for you, like, dressing 80s for me, go and do that. And I think getting clarity on your messaging makes it so much easier for so many people, because you're no longer second guessing yourself. You know exactly what you're going to be talking about more and more. But also it's about giving yourself, like, having that mindset shift that, if I want to become the one for my ideal client, it means that I'm going to have to, I can't be for everyone, and I can't just say the same things everyone else is saying. And yes, it is going to feel a bit uncomfortable at first, because it's different and it's not what we were kind of like conditioned to do, especially as women. But it's going to be so worth it. And the more we do it, the easier it's going to become, the more natural it's going to feel. So it's just about pushing past that initial discomfort to to turn this into like our, something we do regularly, and that helps us connect with the people that we actually love working with. Because as you say, like, you've got to work with this client and you love their kind of like marketing and so on. And so hopefully that means, you're going to get to work with more of those rather than just those who are doing the same old, boring kind of like, stuffy voiceovers, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody's a winner, aren't they, in this situation?
I see that way.
And you also, you're fulfilling your true potential, and you're perhaps having that freedom and that beautiful experience of being able to just be yourself and do your thing confidently and clearly. And I mean, I love that you call it magnetic messaging, because it's true. It's, you want to attract those people who are your people, and you want to ping away and massively repel and not let get anywhere near you the people who aren't your people. And
100%.
And then everybody's happy. Yeah, exactly.
And we're also like saving each other's time. I think like people don't think about it that way, but we're protecting our time, but no longer ending up on like all these calls that don't lead to anything really. But we're also saving their time, because just because someone isn't the right fit to work with us, it doesn't mean they're a bad person. It just means that we have different values, we have different priorities, and they might be the best kind of client for someone else, but they're not for us. So if our messaging, if our marketing makes this clear for both parties, as we're saying, everyone wins, we save each other's time, and maybe we even help people like find someone who would be better for them, while at the same time really speaking to the people who would 100% benefit from our services and that we would love working with. So really, like, literally everyone wins when we become clear on what we stand for, who we're talking to, and what we're showing up with.
Love that. I love that. I was just thinking, I had an inquiry last week from a production company in America who are making a wildlife documentary, and they had already looked at my website. They'd already listened to my demos. I said, would you like a demo? He said, no, it's all right. I know exactly what you sound like. It's going to be fine. He said, great job on your website. And he knew everything already.
Great.
So by the time he sent me the email, I haven't booked the job yet, but hey, let's all cross our fingers, guys. But I think it really helps with saving everybody time. He did that in his own time. He did a little bit of research, thought, yep, okay, this is one of my top 3 or whatever the shortlist is. And by the time he came to me, he wasn't asking me all the questions because everything was answered right there. There's case studies on my website.
Exactly.
There's the demo recordings. There's examples of previous work. There's this, there's that, the other. And so I think that's a good example of what you're talking about. Kind of like, I've had my time saved, and so's the client, and we are a really good fit. So, so yeah. Fingers crossed.
No, it sounds really good.
Enough about me. We are almost out of time. This is just rattled by. But I always like to end these chats by asking, what your story looks like. We've done kind of your origin. What about your next chapter? What's it going to look like for you? Do you think, if you have an idea, for the next couple of years or maybe even up to 5?
Oh, I can't see anything changes, but anything big changing. But at the same time, as I was saying, like my business changed a lot, and sometimes you got to be open to, to that happening. But overall, regardless of whether or not I change direction, whether or not I, do more of what I'm doing exactly right now, I can only hope that I get to impact more people and work with more of the kind of clients that I enjoy working with. And at the same time, that I hopefully inspire more people, people who are listening right now, people who find out about me, even those that don't become clients, but they just, kind of like end up in my world. I would inspire more people, and especially women, to really look at the market from a different way, from a different perspective, and to show up and talk about their beautiful services more confidently. And then other than that, I think one thing that I would really like to achieve, like that's not business related, but I am, as I say, like I write, writing is my passion. I do that in my spare time. It's my dream to have at least one novel published traditionally and see it in bookstores. So hopefully that will be one of the things that happen to me over the next 2 to 5 years.
You're very creative, aren't you? Right? You were just telling me before about doing a dance show and things. So I think...
you're never going to guess in what decade my novel is set.
Go on, you got to tell us now. Or is it top secret? I thought you were going to say it's medieval. No, it's in the 80s.
Of course, it's very on brand.
And can you tease the story, or is it really is it
It's let's just say it's a coming of age story of a platonic friendship that seems to be the only constant in these two people's young adults' life, was their life starts throwing more and more challenges at them, and they try to find their own place in the world. And it's set in 80s Tuscany.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, let's not just set our sights on a book. Let's go book, screenplay, feature film.
Yeah, I like that.
Let's do the whole bit. Oh, well, that's fabulous. Well, Giada, thank you so much for joining us. It's been really brilliant. And I wish you the very best of luck with all of those dreams. Before we go, how can people get in touch with you?
So I'm very active on LinkedIn, and also the best way is probably to sign up for my emails. You can find them at craftycopy.co.uk/newsletter. But yeah, a bit of a warning, only sign up if you are willing to start looking at your marketing from a different perspective, to start ditching the conditioning that as women in particular, we need to kind of like shrink, be humble, be everything for everyone, and never show up confidently and all of that. So if you're willing to, consider that, then you're probably going to like my emails. And there is a lot of storytelling in there.
Okay. Well, there you go. Sign up for Giada's emails. And of course, we will make sure all those contact details are in the show notes. Thank you so much, Giada, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It was a lovely conversation.
Really lovely. See, I told you were in for a treat. Giada shared so many helpful strategies and ideas, didn't she? Here are my key takeaways. 1. It's okay to be a broken record. In fact, it's a great idea. Giada said that to be effective in our marketing, we should be repeating the same message over and over again, which demonstrates why we are the only choice for our key clients. 2. But how do we do that without being boring? By parceling up the facts or tips or bullet points into a story. Giada gave examples of little stories starting, imagine if, or when. This technique gets their imagination going and shows them that you get them, making it really easy for them, who are of course your ideal clients, to feel seen by you. 3. Forget trying to go viral. You don't want to appeal to everyone. Magnetic messaging means attracting the people who are going to buy your product or service and repelling the rest. And 4. I loved what Giada said about getting a new perspective on your marketing. Your message, she said, is a story of hope. You're telling your ideal clients that everything's going to be okay, and whenever they're ready to work with you, you're right here. Oh, now, from the stories we tell our clients to the stories we tell ourselves. Coming up next week.
What I try and do as coaching is get underneath the how do I speak in this meeting to what's the story that you're telling yourself and how can we change that story? So you might have a story that is, for example, I never get job interviews. I'm never successful. Okay, well, I've not been successful up until now. It's just that tiny shift. What does that do to you? What does that allow if you just hold that possibility and you intentionally play that story in your head before you go into an interview?
Helen O'Grady shares the story of her journey from specialist children's nurse to master executive coach. We cover self-talk, career growth and U-turns and find out what it was really like working on hospital wards during the COVID pandemic. It's a fascinating conversation. I'm looking forward to sharing it with you. I'm Katie Flammen, and this is Storytelling for Business. Until next time, goodbye.